30 Odd Minutes is sponsored in part by Digital Dowsing. Who are you powered by?
For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard. We will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30 Odd Minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Hey!
Hey!
Welcome to 30 Odd Minutes. It's great to have you here aboard the mothership. We've just set her down here in the wilds of Pennsylvania. In the
Very
woods.
pretty.
You know why?
Tell us.
Because we're looking for Bigfoot.
Oh, yes, that's why.
Sasquatch. He's been known to wander around these parts, and we'll be talking about that tonight. Good to see you guys.
I'm going to stay in a mothership. How
But
about
yeah.
you guys?
I thought we were looking for Dutch artwork.
I'm allergic. I'm pretty sure I'm allergic to Bigfoot. My allergies.
So you and I stay, those two go. Then
Should we pick up some more coal for the mothership?
Yes.
Yes, a good state to be doing that in, yeah.
We are Pennsylvania. Last week in Pennsylvania too. Missed you guys, but glad to see you again. Everything okay?
Yeah, everything's going well. Everything's going well.
Good with you?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so
Pretty good.
check this out. I was at Parafest last week. You saw last week's live mission. I ran into a zombie Colonel Sanders. You could make it up, but no, there it is.
Wow, that's pretty
Somehow
hot.
I wouldn't touch his chicken.
It was awesome. It was just
I
awesome.
doubt he's finger licking good.
Yeah. Well,
It was.
I'd try it.
It was good.
Give me
It was
that
good.
chicken.
It was fun. It was fun. So, okay, what's going on this week?
All
Miss
right,
Laura?
well, first off, we'd like to start with saying a big, huge hello to Access Television of Fergus Falls, Minnesota.
yay!
Listen, guys, just so you know, it wasn't a pickup truck that did those donuts outside your parking lot. It was the mothership. And by the way, those things are actually crop circles.
Right, technically.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
And it seems like somebody out there is watching us because we have a viewer email today. Dirty. We've been talking dirty today. Dear 30 Odd Minutes, what can I do to get knots out of my hair? I wake up with bedhead like you wouldn't believe. Signed, B. Foot.
B. Foot. All right.
I have some advice for you, B. Foot.
Please.
You start with a big dollop of conditioner. Rub it in your hair, then grab a big brush and start from the bottom and, work your way up. And that's how you get rid of bedhead.
Matt, how do you get knots out of your hair?
You can get knots out of your hair.
Matt, we need to have a talk.
I just shave my head now.
You don't
and
know
again.
about the birds and bees yet?
What? What's that?
It's a long story.
Dirty.
Long another story. All right, we are talking about Sasquatch, and evidence is what this is all about. Our own Dr. Dreck seems to have found something quite compelling. Take a look.
Greetings, oddballs. Dr. Dreck here. Everybody always wants evidence of Bigfoot, definitive evidence, and usually it's the footprints they make a plaster cast of, things like that. But I think I have finally found some definitive proof because the last time that I was down on Earth wandering through the forest, I won't say why I was wandering through the forest, but I was wandering through the forest and I found this artifact. Take a look at this. Huh? How about that, huh? Now what else, other than a Bigfoot, is going to be wearing something this size? And I only found one of them, so that means that somewhere there's a Bigfoot that's just walking around on one foot, kind of hobbling around. He looks uneven, but I even found the sales receipt. It was lying near it, and it said he purchased it from the C Mart, which is the cryptid mart, and he paid $79.99 for a pair of these sneakers. I tell you, Bigfoot, if you're out there and if you're looking for this sneaker, hey, get in touch with me because, boy, such a deal I can get you on these.
Always finding compelling stuff.
That was actually my shoe.
Whoa, that's a big foot.
Haven't you seen my feet?
I know, my goodness. I guess you'd never fall over. All right, let's get to it. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the Yeti. He goes by many names, but very few variations on his description. Yet for centuries, witnesses have described a giant hairy creature lurking in the forests of the world. And some people, like tonight's guest, actually goes searching for the elusive cryptid. He's the director of the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society and host of Beyond the Edge Radio. Please welcome, from the wilds of Pennsylvania, Eric Altman. Yeah. Eric Altman, good to have you back aboard the mothership, sir. How are you?
Hey guys, how you doing tonight?
Good, thank you. Thank you for joining us here.
Good to have you.
For the transmission. So, Pennsylvania Bigfoot, I know you're a Pennsylvania guy. Just saw you last weekend at Parafest. That was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a good time. Good to see you too.
Thank you for not spilling any more details than that. We appreciate it, because what happens at Parafest, of course, stays at Parafest.
Exactly.
Very awkward. But the rash did clear up, so just wanted to let you know that.
No, it hasn't.
Anyway, all right, Eric. So, Pennsylvania Bigfoot Research Society, how long have you been around and how long have you been looking for Squatch?
Our group's been around since 1998, when it was first founded. There wasn't a Bigfoot group in Pennsylvania at that time, and really the only people that were doing research was Stan Gordon, Paul Johnson, and Joan Jeffers. That was pretty much it to cover the entire state. So two guys, Steve Anderson and Henry Benton, decided to put the group together, kind of a poor man's Bigfoot group that anybody that was interested could get involved and go out and look for Sasquatch. At that time, I had been a member of the Bigfoot Field Research Organization, which was a national organization, and I was doing some research locally in Pennsylvania and met Steve and Henry, and we got together, had a lot of like ideas, and I decided to join the PBS, and a couple years later, Steve decided for personal reasons to step down as the group's director and asked me to take over, and I've been doing it since 2000.
Wow. So this is a group of people, all volunteers, right? No one's getting paid for this, looking for evidence, and you're here, you're back on the mothership. We're going to talk about some specific cases, all pretty much within the last year, right? I mean, not even the last year, less than that.
The last 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, so obviously it's not just one or two cases we're talking about. There's a ton going on. Let's just jump right in. Can you start with the Fayette County, Pennsylvania case? Tell us a little bit about that. Take us back to March of 2013.
Yeah, well, in Fayette County, which is the southern western part of the state, it's right along the West Virginia state line. From 2009 through late 2010, we had a rash of sightings, what you might call a flat. And we had a lot of people calling in, reporting these sightings. And this one in particular, after, I'd say maybe late 2010 into the 2011, 2012, and in early 2013, things kind of died down. We weren't getting a lot of reports. But this one came in, it was a pretty interesting one because it came in from a law enforcement officer, a state constable. And for a state constable or any kind of law enforcement officer to report something like that, he's seen to a research group really takes a lot because, as you know, they're in pretty high standings, not only in the community, but their job, and they have a reputation to protect. So It's something they don't really want to disclose to a lot of people. But he did. He came forward to us and told us about what he'd experienced. And as a part-time job, this state constable would drive around to different gas well sites in Fayette County to just make sure they weren't being vandalized or they weren't. There wasn't a leak going on or any damaged equipment. And that night he was out about 2 o'clock in the morning driving a back dirt road towards this gas well, and he saw what he thought was a person messing around with the gas well, vandalizing it. And as he got closer, he turned his spotlight on his car on it, and that's when he saw this very large hair-covered figure standing on the opposite side of the gas well. He freaked out. He didn't know what it was. He drove closer towards it with the spotlight on it, and he says that this animal was blinded by the light, lifted its left arm kind of like in that kind of a fashion to block out the light, and slowly turned and walked off into the darkness. And he got a good enough look at it where he was able to see facial features, and he actually described what he saw as looking more like a caveman than an ape or a gorilla, which I found rather fascinating. But he did come forward to us. He told us his story, and we were fortunate enough for him to take us back to that sighting location. Right. And we did an investigation, and unfortunately we didn't find any real evidence at the scene because we got there a couple days later, and there was just a grassy field, which you'll see in the pictures.
Right, and Footdale there.
That's actually looking over his right shoulder, and up onto the hillside there, you can see in the distance the gas well. And that's about where he was parked with his car when he saw the figure standing there. That's the gas well itself where he saw the creature standing behind it. And I took a measurement of that gas well, and that gas well is actually about 7 feet in height. Wow. And he said the head and shoulders of the creature were about a foot higher than that.
Wow.
So that would put the creature around 8 foot tall. That's a look at the field where the creature walked off into, and as you can see in the background there, a wooded hillside.
Right.
We walked that length of that field. We didn't find any evidence to support a creature being there or any footprints, anything like that. But we did find his testimony rather credible, and his standing being a law enforcement officer really added to the story and the credibility of the report.
That's quick question. When you have a call about something to investigate, I mean, how fast does this case go cold? I mean, are we talking about hours, a day or two? I mean, after a week, it could have rained and everything's
exactly.
gone.
Yeah, it can go cold pretty quickly. So our intention is, as soon as we get the report, we want to get out there as quickly as we possibly can because time is of the essence. If you've got weather going on, like you said, if it's raining, it can wash tracks away. Grass has a really interesting thing that I found where it kind of springs back after even a few hours. And if something walked through that field and left impressions, if there was dew on the ground, we would have been there in an hour or so. We might have been able to see something. But it had been a couple days, things dried out, and as I said, there was no sign of anything. So yes, time is definitely of the essence to get to a sighting location in hopes of finding any conclusive evidence.
Eric, speaking of it being a field, isn't that kind of strange? Doesn't Bigfoot, or isn't the idea that Bigfoot kind of hides in the woods, and so that's why we don't really have the sightings so much? And this seems like a big open field. Isn't that strange to have one kind of wander around in the open like that?
Actually, it's not. These creatures have been mainly reported to move around during the evening hours. They're considered nocturnal, and they do that so, obviously they're not going to run into people as much during, as they would during the day. So they move around, we believe, to forage for food, to travel from place to place, and at night it's good cover for them. And that's when he saw it about 2 o'clock in the morning. So it doesn't surprise me. But surrounding that field, what you can't see in the picture is a very heavy forest line. It's probably about 300 yards away. So if this creature came out, maybe looking for deer or small game or maybe a water source or something, that would explain why it was out in the field, out in the open. But we've got many reports like this where the creatures have been seen out in the open and only for a few seconds and they disappear back into the woods again.
Very interesting. Now, okay, when you talk about the credibility of the witness, we know with anything, whether you're talking about a crime or a paranormal encounter or whatever, that the credibility of the witness is so important. And you've got another case here, Mineral Point, Paint Township in May, Cambria County, Pennsylvania. There's police reports. We've got a 911 call. You guys will hear it in a second. Set this up for us. What happened on this sighting?
Well, this was a really interesting case, and it turned out to be a lot blown out of proportion. Much more was put into the case than actually was what really happened. We received this report in mid-May of this year, and a gentleman sent us an email claiming that he heard on a 911 dispatch frequency, he had one of those dispatch radios, he heard the police getting a call that a turkey hunter supposedly shot and killed a Bigfoot. And the state police were involved. They were en route to the scene. He had later claimed that he had heard that the police arrived and confirmed there was a body and they were calling in the dispatch center, and that's the last he'd heard from it. So when we got this email from him, what we wanted to do is find out if there's any truth to it. So myself, fellow researcher Stan Gordon from Pennsylvania, and a few members of the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society, Ron Gallucci and a few others, started making phone calls to some of the local police departments, municipalities, the state police department, the Fish and Game Commission, because if it was an animal that was shot, they would definitely be involved. They'd be contacted by the state police. So we started making phone calls, and we found out that, yes, there was a call put into the Cambria County 911 center. However, it wasn't for a Bigfoot shooting. It was actually for a gentleman who lives very close to that area who claims that he found large Bigfoot prints in a field very close to where he lives. And he filed the report with the police, which you'll hear the actual dispatch 911 call going to the police officer. And the police officer investigated. He looked at the photographs the man had, and right away he said, those are bear tracks. That's all they are.
So, yeah, let's take a listen to that 911 call, and then we'll circle back and take a look at the photos. Take a listen.
Yeah, Mr. Winesickle, 97th Spruce Street. Negative. See, he called 911 advising he contacted the Game Commission. They haven't called back. He wants a police officer to come to his residence. He apparently has some proof there of Bigfoot. Bigfoot, he would like a police officer to come there.
But there are apparently there's a large amount of smoke in that area.
So, the police get a call about Bigfoot. I'm sure that doesn't happen every day.
No.
Not so much.
How do they react to that?
I think we heard it. Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Hey, if it's a slow night, why not go check it out?
Absolutely. So what happened, Eric, once they go to check out this phone call?
Well, they went and met Mr. Weinsickle at his residence, and he showed them the photographs of these supposed Bigfoot tracks. And the officer said, these are not Bigfoot tracks, these are bear tracks. You can clearly see there's a round pad, and there's a round set of toes in the front. You can see claws in them. Well, Mr. Weinsickle disagreed with the police officer's findings and said, let me take you out to where I found these, and I'll show you there are actually Bigfoot prints. So the officer agreed. They went out to the location, and sure enough, when they got there, he showed them these tracks. And the police officer again looked at them and said, yes, these are bear tracks. They are not Bigfoot tracks. But Mr. Weinsickle disagreed with it. And the police report was filed, and through our phone calls, in calling into the 911 dispatch center, we found out that that's what the source of the call was, that the gentleman heard earlier in the day. You know, he mistook it as a Bigfoot being shot. And one of our investigators was able to meet with the chief of police of Paint Township, spoke with him, spoke with the officer, got a copy of the police report, got a copy of the photographs, which you can see in the photographs, they're bear tracks. They're not Bigfoot tracks.
Right. Take a look. We've got the Paint Township Police photos, and there's the that's right out of the police report. And then here's a close up from the Paint Township track. And
That's because bear's rear paw steps into the front paw's track.
That is correct.
Right.
Yeah, it creates the faux look of a footprint.
Right.
Yeah.
To me, that looks like
Exactly.
an alien. I'm going out. I'm saying that's a gray.
I think it's bear. I
That's
think
a
the
gray.
cop's
Hey,
absolutely
that looks
right.
like it's right behind us, guys.
The other way you tell it's a bear is their toes will form an arc.
Right.
Whereas in the
Right.
Bigfoot, their toes are more like human. And in general, most Bigfoots, the pinky toe is one whole toe length behind the big toe.
And the pinky toe always goes to market.
Yeah.
We all the way home. We had an episode of a 30-odd minutes mission years ago where we took our shoes off and we stood in sand, and Matt made plaster casts of all of our feet.
It was erotic.
There. It was people with foot fetishes and into the paranormal were in heaven.
I think I saw one of those
Yeah,
lying
those-
around at some point.
Yeah. Those feet
They ended
are
up on
lying
eBay, I think.
Eric, I want to ask you something because we're talking about the police investigating these claims. And it's kind of interesting that the police never really gets on board with these things, and people assume that they're just trying to hide things. They're trying to cover up something that is there. And so I'm just wondering, why do you think people think that the government is hiding this information? That if Bigfoot really exists, the government is out there covering all this up. Why would they be doing that?
That's a great question, and I have no proof that the government is involved in a cover-up or any local authorities, police, state police, anything like that. There are stories, and people pass them down like in any kind of paranormal subject. There's always the folklore, the urban legends that the government's involved. They're trying to cover this up because they don't want the public to know. Now, there is a theory out there amongst Bigfoot researchers that the reason the government is covering this up is to protect forests and environments. And if a Bigfoot is found, they have to set aside tracts of land for a habitat, and areas they may go into log can't be logged because it's a home of a Bigfoot. So there are some theories out there that it may affect that. It may affect the economy, like the spotted owl up in the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
So there's a lot of theories that the government's covering up for that particular reason. But I've never seen any proof of it. I've talked to researchers who say, oh, yeah, the Game Commission in my state knows about it and they won't admit it, or the local police know about it and they won't admit it. I've never seen any proof of that.
Right. No, good question. All right, Eric, we're going to come back and talk about two of your other most recent cases right after the news break. Hang with us. We'll be right back.
An unidentified photographer has taken the first known photograph of a strange character who has been seen for the last 10 years walking through the forests of Malls in western Switzerland. This mysterious figure has been spotted many times over the years walking the same route while wearing a military poncho combat boots, and gas mask. Locals have named this unidentified person Le Lion. Witnesses are not even sure if the masked hiker is even a man because no one has dared get close enough to hold a conversation. Theories about Le Lion range from crazed survivalists to a mentally challenged woman or even someone with a horrible skin disease. In June of 2012, this silent phantom was seen moving through the woods carrying a bunch of wildflowers, and on another occasion, walking in the rain on a Sunday afternoon. Whoever the cloaked individual is, they are scaring families away from the walking trails and upsetting nearby residents. Even though no laws have yet been broken, the police would still like to talk to Le Lion about his unsettling behavior and insist that it stops. If this was an episode of Scooby-Doo, it would turn out to be Old Man Bumgartner trying to scare people away from the lost gold mine. I'm Andrew Lake, and oddly enough, that's the news.
Zoinks! Ha!
Andrew, admit it was you.
Yes, it was.
And I would have got away with it.
I had to find some reason to use that gas mask.
Isn't this funny? You tell the story of this mysterious creature.
Just to get myself on TV.
Nice cover-up.
I like scaring kids.
Very nice. Any chance to do a Scooby-Doo reference?
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Did you know every episode of 30 Odd Minutes, if you're watching live, you can go to 30oddminutes.com. We have a chat room, and usually someone's watching it. Tonight, that's Matt, and I understand there are questions, Matt.
Yes, I'll grab a couple out of here. One question is, have you ever used like bloodhounds to try and track down Bigfoot? And the other question is, what would be the legal ramifications if you actually shot a Bigfoot?
Oh, Eric
Some
Altman.
good questions.
Wow. Some very good questions. Our group has never tried bloodhounds. Unfortunately, we don't have access to them. But researchers in the past have tried tracking dogs and bloodhounds and have had very little success, if any. It seems as if Bigfoot and dogs don't get along. Dogs seem to cower, tuck tail, and run and hide. And they just don't like the creature for some reason. Whatever reason it is, we don't know. But tracking dogs just don't seem to work. As far as the ramifications for shooting a Bigfoot, there's only 2 states in the United States that I know that have misdemeanor laws attached to them. That's Cambria County, Washington, and Whitehall, New York. And where they made it a misdemeanor, if you shot a Bigfoot, there would be a small fine and a small amount of time in jail. It used to be in Cambria County, it used to be like $10,000 fine and like 90 days or 6 months in jail or something to that effect, but they've changed it. Those are the only 2 laws that I know are in effect right now. I don't know if there would be any kind of fish and wildlife involvement where they'd step in and say this is an endangered species and throw the book at you. I don't think they could prove it was an endangered species until after the corpse is turned in. But I'm not a lawyer, so I really don't know what ramifications there would be.
No, that's a great question, though. I mean, because I was working on a project for it was a PBS project, and we had a Bigfoot suit, and we were walking through the woods to do a reenactment. I mean, we're not trying to fool anybody. It's an obvious reenactment, but all I could think of was like, some hunter's going to see that and be like, I'm going to be famous, you know? And like the poor guy in the suit's going to be dead just because someone's like,
Yeah, to me, that seems to be a logical reason why people haven't shot a Bigfoot if they exist. Because one, if you don't have a license to shoot bear and you shoot something and it ends up being a bear, you can get in trouble for shooting it without a tag.
Right.
And then if it ends up being a guy from PBS in a suit,
Yeah.
you're even in more trouble.
That's
So
murder.
I would definitely hold off on the trigger.
I feel like they're probably thinking about the first option, not so much caring if it was you.
Just some guy from PBS.
Oh, if it's a guy, who cares?
Well, the rule of hunting, right? You never pull the trigger unless you know exactly.
No, even in paintball, you mark your target before you squeeze off.
Right.
You know?
Now, getting back to the canid thing, I remember distinctly that on several occasions, people witnessing Bigfoot tracks, seeing packs of wolves rolling in their footprints to mask their scent. So wolves will only mask their scent
that's
with
weird.
animals that are considered non-threatening, so they can get closer to their prey.
That's weird. Very weird.
That is really interesting.
All right, Eric, I want to get to another one of your cases because we only have a few minutes left. Moshannon State Forest, Clearfield County, Pennsylvania. Take us to July of 2013.
Yeah, this area in question has had a high number of sightings going back to 1945. And a lot of people claim they see Bigfoot running across the road on the mountain up there in Clearfield County. And we've gotten a lot of reports dating back to 2000 we've investigated. So we spent a lot of time up there in researching, not only reactively, but proactively. We go out in the field and we look for evidence and sign and that sort of thing. And one of the areas we were at was a meadow, and in this meadow there were several pine trees that were around the perimeter of the meadow. And we found 2 of these pine trees that appeared to be broken and twisted at the very top, while the rest of them weren't touched. We thought that was kind of interesting, and we started to investigate those trees to see if maybe there was a cause for it. And we did find about 8 to 10 hairs on both broken trees, like something had walked by and just snapped it. And there's a picture of me. You can see I'm trying to take the hairs off of the tree right at the break. And they were about 3 inches long. They were black in color with a beige tip. They were very fine. They weren't coarse like I'm used to seeing for bear hair, but they were very interesting. We don't know what they were, but I did send an email off to Matt when I discussed this with him. And I've sent this off to a couple other people to see if they'd be interested in taking a look at it. And I believe Ohio State University has offered to take a look at these hairs for us. Cool. And give us an idea of what they are.
And here's you sent us the last photo too, which has got you put the hair out on a white piece of paper. There it is. Now, Eric, are you able to prove beyond any doubt that is not one of the hairs off the top of your head? There it is.
Proof positive.
Shall receive.
Bam!
Proof
Smoking
positive.
gun right there. There it is.
It's not
He
my
was
hair
with
for
the
sure.
group, so it's not to say it's maybe
right.
not someone else's.
I just like to see his head. That's all it is. That's all it is. All right. So physical evidence. That's footprints are great, but they can of course be faked. Not so easy. But a hair, that's interesting. You'll have to keep us posted.
I believe in science. Test it and tell me what it is.
So
Yeah,
what?
We're not going to jump to conclusions as to what the hair is because we honestly don't know.
Right.
We want to get it microscopically tested first to see if it matches any known samples. And then if it gets to that point where it comes back not matching anything, then we'll seek out DNA study because DNA, as everybody knows, is quite expensive. So we don't want to jump to conclusions as to what it is. It might be bear, it might be a common animal. But just upon appearance looking at it, it's, like I said, about 3 inches long, very fine, and it doesn't look like it's been cut. It looks like it has a tapered end to it with a beige end on the very tip. So it's pretty interesting, but at this point, it's inconclusive.
So where is the field of Bigfoot research going right now? I mean, there was the show on Animal Planet, which made it certainly more popular or out in the mainstream. Are we getting any closer to getting something where we can say, hey, this thing's real, it's really out there?
Well, actually, we're hoping we are because there's 2 studies that took place this past year, one of them being the Melba Ketchum DNA study, which a lot of people are familiar with. She had over 109 samples submitted to her, claimed that she had 3 genomes, that she was able to conclusively identify the female portion of the DNA as being human, but the male portion being unidentified. It was never really accepted by any peer journals or peer-reviewed by any science journals, so she went and purchased her own science journal and put the study out there. And it met with a lot of negative response, and a lot of people they said it's common animals is what you're looking at. So that study that came out really wasn't very conclusive, and a lot of people today still don't put much credence in it. However, the second study that's coming out this fall has been done by Dr. Brian Sykes. He is a geneticist out of Oxford University, and he's been given some samples from some scientists such as Dr. Jeff Meldrum and Dr. Bindernagel, and they feel they're conclusive Bigfoot hairs. And he's been testing them. He says he has a conclusion. He'll be releasing the results this late fall, early winter. So we're all looking forward to seeing that come out.
That's who you should
Very
send your
cool.
hair to.
We love it. Eric, thank you for joining us again. Thanks for coming back on the mothership, talking about Bigfoot. Pennsylvania Bigfoot Research Society. We'll, of course, have links to your website from ours. This is it, guys. We got to get out of these woods before Sasquatch comes. Until next time, stay odd.